Welcome to Wired for Wealth, the podcast for ambitious people with a wild side. If you feel there's way more to your vision for success than just the money, and you want to create a life of financial freedom and fulfillment where joy comes first, then you're in the right place. I'm Abby Rogers, therapist, mentor, and expert on all things mindset, subconscious, and manifestation. And I'm here to help you create anxiety-free, stress-free freedom and wealth that aligns with your soul. Let's dive in. This morning I've got the lovely Sonia Davies with me for our Muddy Inspirational interview. We're going to chat about her journey and how she's gone from overwhelm and burnout, I gather, in the corporate background to what she's doing today. So hi Sonia, amazing to have you with us.
Hi, it's really good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, you are very welcome. Just start by telling us a little bit then about that journey and just kind of giving us an overview and where you're at now, if that's okay.
Yeah. So, well, hi everyone. I'm Sonia. I am currently now. I'm a therapeutic coach. I'm a spiritual guide and a healer. But that's quite recent. So, I worked until December 2022. I was working as a part of the senior leadership team in adult social care in my local authority, which was an exciting place to be. And we went through the pandemic and all of that, and let's leave all that behind us. That was pretty stressful in its own right. But what I discovered, I was struggling before that, going back even before that. I kind of already identified that wasn't what I wanted to be doing, but I had no idea what else I did want to do. And I actually worked with a coach, probably back 2019, I think, 18, 19, and realised that I didn't want to still be doing what I was doing. And then the pandemic hit and it kind of overtook everything. So particularly working in social care, it was absolute chaos for a couple of years. And then eventually I got to about November 2021 and I completely forgot the conversation I'd had with that previous coach. And basically I hit burnout. I crashed and burned big time, and I had ended up needing 5 months off work, which I didn't anticipate at all. And it wasn't just about work, just to be clear, it wasn't work specific. It was everything, life, lots and lots of things building up. And what I did as part of that was I reached out to someone who was a therapeutic coach themselves. And I did that because throughout my whole life, I'd had cycles of stress and anxiety and so on. And I'd been through various different, sort of GP prescribed talking therapies and different things over the years. And I kind of got to the point, I went, I've had enough of this. I don't want to keep going back through these cycles of treating the symptoms of what's going on for me right now, putting me back out into the world, feeling great again. And then it comes around again in another 2 or 3 years' time. And I just went, no, I'm done with that. I want to do something different. So I found this person. It was someone I already knew socially. We'd met about 5 years ago, who was a therapeutic coach. And I went, that's a bit different. Let's try that. And that was where I had my light bulb. I was like, I want to do what you do. It kind of landed with me in that one of those sessions. I'll never forget it. I just sat back and went, oh, this is what it is. This is what I'm meant to be doing. So I went and I retrained. And in December 2022, I left my corporate job and I set up my own business. So just over a year ago now.
Wow.
No, not that long. It's still quite recent. I mean, I only actually opened my doors to clients last May. So it's not even been 12 months yet as a functioning business. So yeah, it's still quite early stages. And sometimes I have to remind myself that because I forget that bit. I'm like, I have to be doing everything. It's like, no, hang on. It's not quite 12 months. It's all right.
No, absolutely. Oh gosh, there's so much pressure out there to do everything overnight, isn't there? And then we put it on ourselves as well because we see these so-called overnight success stories and don't see the kind of 10 years of sweat that's gone on in the background before. Why aren't I there already? Why is it not all happening for me?
Reality is very different.
The last thing we want to do is get back to that place of burnout. So as you say, it's never about just the work, is it? It's always about all the stuff in the background.
Absolutely.
As well. Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess what you were finding over those years is that the sort of spells of therapy were making a bit of a difference, and then you were kind of coming back to just realizing that this is kind of scraping the surface and it's not really getting me to where I need to be. What was so different, do you think, about the therapeutic coaching? How did that really shift things forward for you?
Oh, now there's a question. I think it's the fact that it wasn't. I've worked with a number of different therapists of different, different disciplines over many, many years since I was a teenager at different times, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes, because I needed it. And I've always found they may have just been the ones I worked with, but they were always very, right, let's go and look at the problem.
Yeah.
And see it as a single thing. And actually what I found with the therapeutic coaching approach, which is why I've now qualified in it myself, is it takes a coaching approach to the conversation. So as the client, I was 100% in charge of where I went and how deep I went. And I didn't have to go back and unpick messy old trauma or anything like that. I just held in a space by a person who was very, very competent and qualified to allow me to unpick the things that were actually holding me back from moving forward. And focusing on the forward direction of it rather than let's go back and unpick this. Actually, let's see where you want to get to, explore where you might want to get to, even because at the start of it I had no idea. And unpick the little strands that might be holding you back, which probably aren't the big nasty trauma stuff. But actually, not that there was a lot of that either, I have to be honest, but then they're not the knotty horrible things. It was the little things that unlocked so much for me. I mean, it was huge.
We can have a proper therapy geek out here, because you're talking my language. Like I know, I've always done has been very forward facing and very much how do we get to where we want to be. And you do have to pick at those threads sometimes and just kind of see where they lead. But it's very much about using, like I always refer to it as the tip of the iceberg, to then explore what's going on beneath. Not going digging in what's going on beneath and going, well, it might be this, it might be that, but actually really targeting, as you say, that coaching language, what actually is the problem. If you need to focus on the problem, and often we don't, to move forward, and it's just such a relief, isn't it?
It was so good. And what I found with that as well is it wasn't big things that were holding me back. It was really, really little things that I hadn't realised were there. So the narrative from my parents, the biggest one for me, I mean, it's huge, the impact, but it was a little thing as a very small child. When you're starting to navigate nursery and school and for the first time as a 4 or 5-year-old, I was taught, if you've got a bag of sweets, offer them to other people first. It's nice to share. My parents were trying to teach me to share and be a nice citizen, basically. Except what I didn't realise was what my brain was hearing was everyone else is more important than you. And that then shaped my entire life. And when I saw that as an adult now, a couple of years ago, I could look at that and go, well, that's not what they meant at all. Of course that's not true. And that helped me reshape my whole attitude to life and how I approach it now. So it just unlocked all those things.
It's huge. And you say you didn't have a kind of huge amount of trauma to dig through and to unlock or anything like that, but very often it's those micro things, isn't it? It's those tiny little traumas that wouldn't necessarily be a traumatic experience to anybody else, or wouldn't necessarily leave a negative imprint, but just depending on where we are at the time, or what else we've been kind of fed at home in terms of reinforcement, just how vulnerable we are. We take those as read and very literally when we're little, and they just stay with us and hang on forevermore. So I bet that's been super powerful to shift that one.
It was amazing. And the other thing was, after I'd worked it out and resolved it, I had a conversation with my dad about it. He was horrified that the meaning I'd taken from that as a child.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrified. And he was like, no, we just didn't want you to have no friends because you were seen as being greedy and selfish. That's all it was.
Yeah. Oh.
and it's really, that really highlighted for me the difference between the meaning we make of things, particularly as children, versus the intention of the person speaking it. And that's a lesson for everything. And that was really life-changing for me.
Yeah. And I think even as adults, like, we try our best to communicate things in a way that's not going to traumatize that child and leave them kind of scarred going forwards in any way, shape or form. But often we have to take that responsibility off ourselves in a way and say, like, I'm doing my best here, and I'm doing what I can to try and make sure this little person is okay and is fine going forward. But at the end of the day, we never kind of know what's going on for them beneath the surface or in other aspects of their lives, and you can't get it perfect. It's impossible to get it perfect.
There is no such thing as perfect.
Yeah.
To
remind myself of this as a parent very often, like, you're just doing your best, you're just nurturing them in the best way you can right now, and you're not going to get it all right, and that's okay.
And you can't be responsible for the meaning they take from something you say with a different intention. You really can't.
No, absolutely. But giving them lots of love and helping
absolutely them. That's the most important bit.
Yeah, totally. So what kind of doors has that unlocked for you, being able to shift that narrative?
Honestly, that changed everything. That was what allowed me to realize that the narrative that I had about this is what success looks like, and this is what it's important to put other people first, has changed to be, no, success doesn't need to look like a senior role in a large organization with a reasonable salary or good salary and all of that financial security. That doesn't need to be success. That definition of success is not necessarily what it needs to be. And the fear I had about leaving my job was all about, well, I would be sacrificing my family's well-being, because if the words I spoke to myself, I remember I wrote them down at the time, were I would be selfish and throwing away other people's security if I was selfish enough to try and leave my job and do something for my own well-being. That would just be selfish, and that's not okay. And understanding and unlocking that shift for me that happened around sharing sweets in the playground was how gave me the confidence to go, that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. Of course I need to put my needs first, because it's only from putting my needs first that I have sufficient available to then support other people. So I'm supporting people from a place of strength now, rather than being empty and just giving everything of myself before I give myself, before I've fed myself first. So it's just changed how I see the whole world and my place in it.
Yeah, excellent. And it's not only that, but it's also that we're then, by putting ourselves first and allowing ourselves to grow and to realise our potential, we're showing them that it's okay for them to do that as well, and that they don't have to replicate the cycle of putting themselves in a little box and keeping themselves really small.
Exactly that. And that's actually what I've kind of built my fledgling business on, is actually being there as a sort of a beacon to say to people, you can do this. Look, I'm proof. I was there and now I'm here, and it's amazing, and please come and join me, because you can use me as a template. And that's what I'm about, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, when we do that, when we're kind of courageous enough to take those steps and put ourselves first, we show up in a way that's so much better for everybody else as well, often. And it's that whole put your oxygen mask on before everybody else's thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Just these societal narratives that many of us grow up with, that it's all about suffering and sacrifice, and we've got to suffer on behalf of everybody else, and it's so culturally ingrained that I love that you're breaking that. It's massive.
It really is. And there was a bit of irony, actually, that I've since realised, in that I felt I was going to be selfish by putting myself first. I've actually since realized I was being selfish by not doing, because the people around me benefit more from me. Now I do put myself first, because I have more to offer, and it's more grounded and more holistic and more rounded and, you know, all of that than it was before. So I thought I was being selfish by not doing that before, but actually I was being selfish by sacrificing myself completely, and I didn't even realize it. It's one of those strange ironies that I've only worked out since I've done it.
Latter days, you can't see it when you're in it, can you?
No, not at all.
We never really help anybody else by keeping ourselves trapped in this little prison.
No,
we never do.
No.
Wonderful. So what would you say kind of motivates and inspires you now? What's the biggest motivation for you at the moment?
I mean, I've got a number of them, really. I've got my long-term, in the distant vision for my dream home with my couple of cats wandering around the garden and a beautiful garden office. It's going to be fabulous. You know, I've got all of that, and, you know, fabulous garden and the grow my own veg and all of that. That's the long term. One day that will happen. I do think it's important to have that long-term goal though as well. So that is a motivation, and that's kind of a touch point that I come back to on those days when I go, no, that's not feeling it. Actually, no, that's what I'm aiming for. So keep that in mind. So that's good for me. But in terms of day to day, what motivates me is, I sort of touched on it already, is that being that beacon, being that hope. I want to make a difference to the world. I want to have an impact on the world. And the best way I can do that is helping people, showing people ways that they can grow themselves so that they can have an impact. And I'm here for the ripple effect. And that's my motivation, really. I want to be that guiding light that inspires other people to live their happiest version of their life that they can, and know that their dreams can come true, because I've always known that dreams can come true. You can make anything happen if you're committed to it enough. And I want to inspire other people to get to that point and believe that too. And that's what motivates me.
Love it. Sometimes we have those dreams there. We want them so badly, but our confidence and our physiology lets us down. Stifles those dreams. So being able to help people break through that and realize that actually just because something's been one way, it doesn't always have to be that way, and you can learn to rediscover your confidence or whatever it is that's been taken away in those early years. It's just fantastic to watch. Isn't it?
Absolutely. I love it.
Now, I find often as therapists, one of the kind of big stumbling blocks we come up against is kind of around the whole theme that we've been talking about today. But when we're so passionate about giving and helping other people on their journey and helping them realize their full potential, often we feel like, because that's such a loving and caring thing to do, that we can't charge for it, or we're bad to charge for that. Have you had any of that kind of coming up on your journey?
I've been okay with that bit. I'll be honest. I did. I do want to give, but I'm also, I don't have those kind of money blocks. I do. Everyone has a money script of some kind. Mine was more about you can have anything you want if you work hard enough. Okay, so whose definition of hard work and how much is enough and all of that? So it's almost a constant, yes, I can achieve absolutely anything I want. I can achieve the financial wealth that I want, providing I keep working very, 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 very hard. And no one, and it wasn't until I pulled that one out and went, hang on a minute. Does that mean working 14 hour days and constantly? No, absolutely not. And that's nonsense, and let's release that one. So that was more my barrier, was not so much about the I don't deserve money, I don't deserve wealth, I don't deserve to charge for what I'm doing. It was more about, well, I haven't done enough yet to be worthy of it. And that's I've released that one. But that was the one that I had to work through.
Yeah, that's a massive one, and that's like feeding hugely into that whole burnout thing, isn't it? So even when we've escaped our corporate career, and even when we've overcome the whole burnout issue, it can still follow us into self-employment and into building a business. We've got to watch out for it. Especially if we're very motivated and very passionate about our businesses, and we just want to put all the hours into it. I
know, and it's like, oh, hang on. I'm very lucky. I have a wonderful husband who'll come in and go, hello. How long have you been sitting there on your laptop? I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, good point, thank you.
Husband, do you have any other kind of little tips and tricks that you use for breaking those cycles and just pulling yourself away? What's your go-to?
I try and make sure that I start my day later than I always used to. So when I was working in corporate, I would get up, get dressed, have breakfast and straight onto the laptop. Whereas now I put a gap in. I do some grounding work. I do some sort of meditation in the morning. Sometimes I go out for a walk first thing in the morning. I quite often do that later in the day, but as a break as well. But it's okay to not actually sit down for work until 10 in the morning. There's no rule that says you have to be online at 8 o'clock. Even though many are, I'm like, no, I don't need to do that. I do not need to do that. So I'm not going to. And sometimes I have to stop myself because it's ingrained after however many years it was working in corporate land. But actually, making sure that I do that time for whether it's journaling or meditation, I mix it up each day, but some space for me first thing in the morning. And then also another thing I do is, because my husband is also self-employed, so two of us in the same house, working in the same house together. But what we do, we have different routines through the day, but what we do try and do is we try and have lunch together. Oh, nice. And we'll sit down and physically eat lunch at the table together, which is kind of a nice little break in the day for both of us, whatever it is we're doing. So,
mini
date. It's sort of a mini date, but it's also a way of, okay, I have to get away from my laptop because otherwise we can't eat. Because I don't just grab something and then come back and sit on my desk. And it's like, no, we have this ritual that we've created that we sit and eat together and talk. And that may be the first time we've really interacted all day, but that's okay. So,
having that to just pull your head out, isn't it? And get you focused on something else that doesn't matter so much for a few minutes, or that's like not you think so intensively.
And it's analog and there's no devices, and it's literally just face-to-face actual human beings having a conversation and having food. So it's a nice sort of pause halfway through the day that we do, which is good for both of us.
A little bit of quality time. So very easy just to grab the quick sandwich, isn't it? And like sit behind your laptop and do it away. But even if we could just take those 5-minute breaks sometimes, just to stare out the window and actively decompress and just say, I don't need to about work for 5 minutes. It has such an impact on things.
Really does.
I think also when we're like head down into work and we're kind of telling ourselves that we need to do all of this work, we just miss all the other opportunities that are out there. And very often there's another way of doing things that we just don't see because we're lost in the trees. We can't see the wood. And
absolutely.
All of a sudden I can do this a different way.
And it's remembering. I think one of my biggest learnings was that it hit me probably, 3 or 4 months into this new self-employed lifestyle, was that no one gives you a manual of how to leave corporate and work for yourself. Because I've worked in large organizations my whole life. In fact, if you go back through school, I've always had school and university and then work and all the rest of it. I have some time out here and there, but no one gives you a manual on how to be responsible for your own schedule. And the fact that no one's going to come and ask, have you done that yet? Have you written that book yet? Have you done that piece of work yet? No one's going to ask you that. So learning that was quite a wake-up call for me.
Mm.
You know, that was quite big. But also it's about remembering why I wanted this in the first place.
Hugely, yes.
And don't get me wrong, I always knew when, you know, one of the reasons I'm doing this now is, I took this leap now, is because I'm at an age where I've still got the energy to do this. And I know it's going to be, the first couple of years are going to be hard work and hard graft. And they are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard. But it's also remembering things like, I want to be able to get out for a walk in the middle of the day just because I feel like it, and not because I need to, because I'm focusing on, right, I've got to go and get my exercise. But actually, do you know what? I'm just going to walk down to the local park and I'm going to hug the trees. And yes, I do hug trees in public, and I don't. And I do it in the local park as well. And yeah, I get weird looks, but I don't care. But it's great. It's really grounding. It's lovely. And I can go and do that whenever I want. And that freedom and that choice, and also the choice of when I want to work, it doesn't matter. It can be a Saturday afternoon. If that's when I'm feeling inspired, I can. And then I can lie in bed all Tuesday morning if I feel like it. I don't want to get up. There's no rules of, obviously, outside of client appointments and things. There's no rules that say I have to work Monday to Friday and not at weekends. That was
takes a long time to realise that sometimes, doesn't it? We just put it on the schedule.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be, I mean, I've said it's hard. Yes, it's hard work setting up and launching a business, but it's as hard as you make it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So and it's easy to get very overwhelmed by all the things that need doing, and remembering that, no, actually, hang on, I don't have to do what whoever they are, say, and what they're doing, that, because I'm me and I get to choose what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's, that freedom, and I have to remind myself of that freedom.
Yeah, well. Absolutely. Yeah, very much in the first 2 or 3 years or so of building a business online, it was like, here are all the things that you've got to do, and I'm sometimes very literal. My lovely neurodiverse brain goes, right, must do that, must do that, must
likewise.
Do that.
Yes.
And just there was this big epiphany at one point of, I'm just listening to everybody else's shoulds, and this is what I actually want. I'm not actually enjoying this. And it's so easy to go out there and create yourself the exact thing that you were trying to get away from in the first place, if you're not careful. It's important to me.
Absolutely that. And it is also understanding that some of that comes from the corporate conditioning. When you've worked in corporate land for a long time, like I did, I mean, particularly at a senior level, there's that you are conditioned to work in a certain way, and therefore you follow the people. When you come out of that environment, you follow the people that naturally fit into that because you're familiar with it and it's safe and it's comfortable. And then you go, hang on a minute, that's not what me personally want to be doing. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to create a lifestyle that is different and is not doing that. So why am I following, people online and in sort of free groups from online business mentors and things that actually that's not how I want to run my business? And that realization that I get to choose, I can do whatever I want. Amazing.
What are my aspirations? Do they match up to that person that I'm following, or are they somewhere else in what they want? Thank you. I think that's a really valuable lesson for a lot of people. Do you find that you have to make a habit of checking in with that regularly? Do you find it's just something you remind yourself of occasionally?
I've actually got I've got a series of notes up on the wall in front of me that say, is this what you really want? and it literally that I do have to remind myself, because I've had 20 plus years in corporate life, and this is how we do things around here, and actually going, no, I get to choose, and I'm still it's still new, and I'm still removing that conditioning. It's still there and I recognize it, but I have to be very conscious about recognizing it. It's not automatic yet. It will become that way, but it's not yet. So yeah, no, I do have to I do physically remind myself with Post-it notes and things on the wall in front of me going, don't forget, you get to choose. And that I can pick and choose the bits of those business mentors that I've followed and other, experts online. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can get blindsided by the number of experts out there. And it's about, and that doesn't mean that they're bad. They're brilliant at what they do and it's perfect for them.
Yeah.
But it's knowing that I can pick that bit from that person and that bit from that one and that bit from that one and mix it all together to be uniquely me. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But I have to remember that.
Totally. And I don't know if this ever kind of crossed your path on the journey, but I think often as well we hold other people's expectations high on this pedestal, don't we? If I don't work as hard, and if I start work at 10 a.m. and finish at 3, and I have this more kind of leisurely routine, for anybody else viewing it from outside, what are they thinking of me? Are they judging me? But has that cropped up for you at some point?
Oh, absolutely. And my critical parent sits on my shoulder behind my ear and says, come on, have you done enough yet? You can't stop yet. Come on, keep going. Haven't worked hard enough yet. And yeah, absolutely. And it's a constant, I was going to say battle, but that's not the right word. It's a constant bringing to awareness those voices and that knowing that that's there and going, I'm hearing you, I'm there, but do you know what? I'm choosing this right now and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I deal with that by, I can do certain tasks that will then appease that little voice and behind me going, so it might be, okay, I'm not going to do all of that work, but I'm going to write it out into a list and commit to doing this at this time and this time. Which then appease, right, okay, so you've got a plan at least. You're not just randomly swanning off on your own without a care in the world, because that's what my critical parent sees. Corporate conditioning brings that in as well, of course, and that's knowing that I can write it down and go, look, here's a list, you can physically see it. I'm balancing that in my head and going, it's all right, we got this. Now we're going to go out to the park and hug some trees in public. Because we can.
Like, we're allowed to be happy humans. We're allowed to just not have a care in the world sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Freedom, do we? Totally.
Absolutely.
Any other lessons that you'd have for somebody following a similar path to you? Anything else that's kind of jumping out at you to say, watch out for this, people?
I think it's being aware that, I mean, it's that Carl Jung thing, isn't it? We repeat what we don't repair, and it's very easy to get stuck in a cycle of someone else has said I should be doing this, therefore that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and not remembering to check in with you and what you want, because you've spent your whole life not doing that. And following other people's rules, particularly if you worked in large corporate organizations, which is my experience, even some of the smaller ones, but large corporate organizations, there's a lot of structure and bureaucracy there for necessity. There has to be, otherwise you can't function. If you're in an organization with multiple thousands of staff, you have to have structure and functions, and it's necessary evil of the world. But when you come out of that, you automatically try and recreate that, and that means you forget to check in with yourself and what you want, and that it's okay to notice those things. And sometimes it's about just noticing them and not then berating yourself for it, because we're all human and that's normal, and that doesn't achieve anything anyway. But going, right, I see you. Right, now I know you're there, I can choose to do something with it. And that doesn't mean it's not going to appear again. And not beating yourself up for not being, the person that you thought, all these glamorous social media posts going 7 figures in 7 days or whatever the heck it is, you know, and that's not real. You know, it is hard, it is grafting, and it is difficult, but it's worth it. And it's just knowing that you can be yourself and be authentically you. That's what shines through. That's the important bit. And don't worry about keeping other people happy. That would be the biggest thing, I would say, because no one's got it right. There is no, this is the way to do it. There's only, this is the way that works for you, and you've got to make it unique to you.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. It's very, very, very easy to get stuck in those cycles, isn't it? Of just grafting and working away. But I think you're right, just coming back to a little check-in with yourself very regularly to say, like, is this okay? Am I in a happy place with this first?
Yeah.
Knowing that there is going to be a challenge there, and saying to yourself, okay, it doesn't really matter how long this takes. This is the thing I want. And yes, it's maybe going to be tricky along the way. But I'm going to give myself permission to just trust in this thing and keep working at it.
Yeah.
Until it happens. And taking that pressure off in a way is massive, isn't it? And
it really is. Yeah. And being willing to be flexible with it as well.
Yes.
And actually, because things will change and evolve. I mean, I change and evolve every day, frankly, and that's part of the beauty of it. I'm here for that. That's what I'm about. But being open to going, actually, no, that didn't go how I wanted it to. How can I learn from it? And taking every lesson as learning rather than, oh, I got that wrong. Don't beat yourself up.
Absolutely.
It's that, I think.
Yeah. Nobody gets it 100% right. Nobody gets it completely wrong either. Like, there's always gold to be found in those mistakes, and they're how we learn and evolve. So, like, fail faster, they always say. Get out there, throw yourself at it, see what happens. Take the lessons. So where would you love to head next? What's on your radar going forward?
Oh, what's on my radar? So I've got a couple more things that I've done, a number of qualifications. I've done quite a lot, actually. 2023 was a very busy year for me. I've got a couple more things that I've started working in, but I want to train and qualify in as well. So I want to bring together some work in the Akashic Records. So I'm bringing together sort of the therapeutic coaching and the spiritual side into one sort of homogenous mix, because for me that's part of who I am. So I want to bring it all together. So, you know, I already do things like energy healing and I do Akashic card readings and things like that, but I want to do more Akashic work. And the other thing that I'm doing is EFT as well, so tapping, because for me there's a beautiful synergy in that doing all that spiritual stuff and the psychological stuff that comes with therapeutic coaching can be very challenging, and it can spin you off into the ether, whether it's a spiritual ether or a psychological ether. It can spin you off there. And there's something for me about the physical nervous system regulation as well, and that there's something about bringing those together. That sort of, I don't like the word because it's the phrase because it's a cliche, but that mind, body, and spirit. But it is the three together is where the magic really happens.
Yeah, I think we want to be in touch with our higher self, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
all the time, don't we? But when we're in fight or flight, when our nervous system is just shot to pieces, we can't access that. The harder we try, the worse it gets. So being able to free up all the stuff that's standing in the way and just unblock that passage is love it. Excellent.
So and I just want to share what I'm doing with more people as well. I want more people to be able to celebrate themselves. I want to make the world a happier place.
Yeah.
One joyful person at a time. That's kind of what I'm about. So that's I want to do more of that.
Absolutely. You're on my tribe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Voting joy. Let's get all the people into a better place. Yeah. I think there's a need for it, isn't there, now more than ever? Like in these times of, you would think, relative comfort and tranquility, at least in in our country, we're so very fortunate that we are living in fairly peaceful times. And so many people are under so much pressure, and having a miserable time of it when things should be moving in a better direction. But help people understand themselves, because we've become in a way so detached from ourselves and the things that really support us is massive, isn't it? So
absolutely. And that sense of it is that societal conditioning that's come about over the last, probably only over the last sort of 30 or 40 years, really, around must work harder, work. And it's for women and men now as well. It's, work, struggle, no pain, no gain, and all of that nonsense. And it's like, no, hang on a minute. We need to stop and reconnect with the truth of ourselves, because evolution doesn't work like that. And for me, it's about bringing together that it's okay to work hard, and it's not a problem if you want to work hard, if it's in balance. And it's bringing that balance that's key.
Yeah, I think there was a time maybe when hard work meant survival, and like you literally had to have your fingers to the grindstone all day long to make ends meet and to make things work. And that's kind of translated through, but we have to get to a place where we realize we're okay to let go of some of that. We are in a better place generally as a human race, and we're about optimizing things now in a way. So wonderful, good, power to the journey, and thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been really really wonderful to explore some of those insights with you, so thank you.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Abby. I've enjoyed this.
Take care.